You find me once more in my parlor, doing a nice glass of wine, here in the company of Magic Fireplace Jr., and of possession of another item of gaming history that we can look back on together. Again, this, like my last review, is an item also taken from that same thrift shop purchase, wherein I found a number of unopened collectible card games from history. And I thought that we could open them together and take a look at what fortune may have brought to me. The last video was on Guardians, a game that I hadn't heard of, didn't get wide circulation, and quite honestly went out with a whimper. On the other hand, today's quarry is going to be a little bit more well known. It had a longer run, and it dovetailed in a little bit better with the role-playing game community. This particular game was designed in the shadow of a fairly popular role-playing game. The game was called Deadlands. The collectible card game was Deadlands Doomtown. So, Deadlands came out quite some time ago. It again ran through the 90s. Wizards of the Coast actually published it for some time, and a few other developers as well. However, the plug was pulled on it in the year 2000, although there, from what I have seen online, seems like there may be a renaissance for it to return once more. Now, the Deadlands was always an interesting role-playing game, one that I never delved in myself, but I was interested in it. The concept is quite fascinating. The setting is in the Wild West, but not the kind that you may be familiar with. That's the trappings and underpinnings of the world of Deadlands. It actually is more of a game of supernatural horror and magic, working along with steampunk and the other flavors of the Wild West. Desperate gunfights, but with monsters instead of bandits and such. Called the Deadlands because, best of my knowledge, their characters were dead and reborn to fight on in this land. Doomtown was a city within the Deadlands, and the action of the card game took place there. Later on, they actually made a book detailing the environs of Doomtown so that the people who played Deadlands could use this resource. In addition, my source on Wikipedia suggests that these cards can also be used as playing cards with that game. One of the things that fascinated me about Deadlands was that it had an interesting concept. Your character was created not with dice, but with draws from a poker deck, including the jokers, so that it kept some of the flavor and the feeling of the Wild West, where poker and card games were certainly very popular. Once you started playing, you also used dice, the standard range of dice you might find for other popular fantasy role-playing games, and you also used poker chips as markers for other abilities. So, all in all, it was a little bit more involved than many other role-playing games, but the premise was certainly interesting, with a lot of unique story elements, and it had an involved passage of time, different events that took place within the Deadlands that would allow you to get a semblance of the actions going on around your characters. So, I think that we should immediately go to my hand cam so that you can see me open up the pack and we can peruse the cards together. And then we can get a sense, perhaps some feeling of why Deadlands isn't continuing on today in the same capacity, or why there was a break if there is a re-release. So, shall we? Now you can see as I see. And here we are. We have Deadlands Doomtown, Trading Card Game, Episode 1 and 2. 15 card saddlebag. How clever. Nice lord of a gunfighter, ready for action. Alright, let's open this up. Alright. Well, I can see the promise of these cards as playing cards seems to hold true. This would be an interesting deck to have as making out a full 54 card deck with jokers. But let's look at these together, shall we? Okay. So we have Phineas von Landingham, 6 of spades. Mad Scientist, 0. Noon Boot von Landingham to gain 2 Ghost Rock. Ghost Rock is the currency of the game, I believe. It's what you use to pay for your different effects and characters. Brought in by airship from a secret mine in the Badlands. He carries enough bombs to level the state, and he wonders why no one wants to get in the blimp with him. How clever. Now, again, I haven't played the game, so I'm just going by what I can see. Nice art. An interesting character who seems a little, perhaps quite dangerous, both to yourself and to your opponents. So, that's the first. Drawing a bead, 6 of clubs. Shootout. Target one of your dudes in a shootout. Gain no benefit for this dude in this round of the shootout. Triple the bullet rating for this dude in all of the consecutive rounds of the shootout. I suspect this may be a significant portion of the game. It has 0 cost in the corner. So tripling a bullet rating for a character is probably something that will help you win more battles than not. The Ace of Clubs, the Headsman's Axe. Nice zombified character. There are elements of horror in Deadlands, so fittingly enough. And yeah, that axe is something that would help against those horrors, I suspect. Reaction play immediately after any dude is aced. Killed, perhaps? The dude may not be brought into play again through any means. So you take his head off. Interesting. Take his head away and then let him try and find his way out of the grave. That's probably fairly useful. I'm guessing this game has multiple means of bringing back deceased characters. 4 of Hearts, a Pinto. Nice horse. Shootout. Boot the Pinto to remove this dude from the shootout. Move this dude to any of your talent deeds. Okay. So I'm guessing booting is probably what they use for tapping, meaning that the card was expended without being destroyed. And that probably means that you're using the horse to get a speedy escape out of a fight. So, by booting it, that probably means you can only use it once. It's either that or you discard it to get your dude out of the fight. One or the other. So its purpose is fairly clear. 5 of Diamonds. Deed to Sam's General Store. Nice. Public. Controller reaction. Boot to reduce by 2 the cost of any goods card you are putting into play. So it allows you to get higher powered gear out quicker. Nice. I do like the art style too. Putting the picture up against the faux weathered wood finish is certainly a nice touch. It looks very nice. Some good thought that went into these games. Giddy Up, a 4 of clubs, yes. Reaction, play immediately before one of your dude boots to join a posse. Your dude does not have to boot to join this posse. Alright. That sounds useful. Probably allowing your character to commit to a fight without actually risking himself. 5 of clubs, a warrant. Noon, target any dude in play. Boot one or more of your dudes who have a combined influence greater than the target. The target dude is now wanted. Alright. Sounds like a useful tool. Possibly to make your opponent's dudes get targeted quicker. 3 of Spades, Lucky Ted. Non-unique, so you can have multiple Lucky Teds.
Ted's in the same posse as a dude about to be aced, you may ace Ted instead. So he's the sacrificial lamb for the other characters. Interesting. Ace of Spades, Victor Navarro. Reaction, boot Victor to join any shootout immediately after draw. Hands are shown if anyone in your gang is in the shootout. Guessing that he's a specialist in dueling that you can bring in to settle a score with another opponent. Two of Hearts, Winchester rifle. My son will like this. He's a little obsessed with guns and rifles. Weapon. It gives a +1 to the bullet score, undoubtedly making a character a little tougher. I'm guessing that 1 is a cost in Ghost Rock that it costs to get the Winchester rifle for a character. The King of Diamonds, the Deed to the Wishing Well. I wonder if this is the rare. Public, Controller Noon. Boot the Wishing Well and spend 1 Ghost Rock to randomly get stuff. If you draw an ace, you get 4 Ghost Rock. That could be very useful. So, that's an interesting card. 5 of Clubs, Just a Graze. Reaction, play after hands have been shown. The number of your dudes killed in that round is reduced by 1. The shootout continues normally. Okay. So you use that to spare one of your characters from death. Useful. 4 of Spades, Tao Cheng, TC. Shootout, he gets a +2 bullet bonus in a shootout if none of the opponents is carrying a weapon. So the Winchester rifle would help to negate that. He actually would get a bullet score of 2, probably showing how much more dangerous he is if nobody else brings a gun to a gunfight. So, interesting. Fanning the Hammer. 6 of Clubs. Fanning the Hammer is basically the practice of pushing down the hammer manually rather than clicking the trigger to fire off as many bullets as your hand can palm the trigger back until your cylinder is out, usually. The reaction, play when your posse is 1 round of a shootout to increase by 2 the number of dudes aced in the opposing posse. So, yep, it's used to put more fire down and to take out extra opponents if you're winning. And then the last card we have is a 3 of Clubs, Brawl. And Noon, target any location. Until after nightfall, any dude in this location may, as a noon action, start a shootout with any other dude at that location. The losers are sent home booted instead of being aced. So it's not to the death. So we know that there's a day and night cycle. We know that it looks like the more deadly cards come out at night. Again, this has the backlay of what looks like aged leather is kind of a nice touch, differentiating it from characters or items or different actions. It's a nice effect. The art, again, pretty solid. You could definitely tell what you're looking at. This is professional grade art. And I found that for all of the characters it was certainly sufficient. Perhaps it may not have been fine art in the way that the Guardians cards were in the last episode, but for a game based on a role-playing game, this definitely fits the bill. It varies from what looks like maybe hand-drawn sketches for some of the effects to just, very nice art. And again, it's a nice range. We have some, I'm guessing the aces are a bit more powerful, although I don't know if that has any effect on rarity. And again, we will, after looking at all of these, I'm noticing that the diamonds appear to be things that make you more powerful, the buffing things and details. The spades look like they're your characters, whereas the clubs look like those are the actions. The diamonds appear to be the deeds, things that you use. All these clubs are different effects that you can pull off. And the spades look like they are your dudes. So, get glare for a second. Looks like we didn't exactly get an even blend, as that often can be the case in a booster. We have an awful lot of the club cards, which is perfectly fine. Again, we're not using these to play, we're just kind of looking at what this game might have been like, and you can kind of get an idea. The idea to have enough Ghost Rock, to get out your dudes, to have cards to have showdowns with your opponents, and allow your dudes to survive, gear that gives them a constant bonus, and it looks like these deeds are different locations that can give you bonuses, or, again, emphasizing the Wild West gambling aspect, some of them pose a little bit of a risk, like that wishing well. Very interesting. I may have to look into this game a little bit further. But anyhow, back to me.
Well, that was certainly something, wasn't it? A game that perhaps not as dead as some of the others. I have heard of tournaments for this Deadlands game back in the day. It was a lot more vibrant, ironic considering the content. But there was a following who played this game quite passionately. I know they had several expansions. This was for episodes 1 and 2, but they carried on multiple episodes, so they kept the series going further and further. Again, with this booster, drawing these 15 cards, get a real sense of the range of the cards and what they do for you. Building a deck must have been an exciting mix of choosing just the right dudes to complement each other's play, giving them gear that would give you an advantage over your opponents if they arrived. From the description that Wikipedia gave, it sounded like it was much more important to build a solid and concrete deck, as luck had less to do with it than many of the other games, and a certain amount of strategy was rewarded. There was also movement throughout the game as your dudes moved to accomplish various tasks. All interesting. I would certainly be interested in seeing the game played out, but we're critiquing it now, so going by what we know from this booster, as far as the presentation and the art, I think it's exceptional. I like the style. I like the thought that was put into giving it the Wild West flair, along with zombies and other assorted weird West sensibilities. The art is not realistically, crisp and clear. It plays a little bit more like a pulp comic from back in the day, and I think that suits the theme quite admirably. I didn't see in any of these any bad art that would make me wince, something that even Magic the Gathering can't say they can do. The Dark, anyone? But yes, so as far as presentation, it's a solid game. The cards are well made, and I like the additional utility you get. They can serve as a deck of playing cards if you get all of them in a set. So, obviously, I'm nowhere near close to that, but one would have to think if you got into playing the game, you would probably get a set fairly quickly. So, as far as that goes, excellent. As far as the gameplay goes, well, the rules are somewhat impenetrable. I go looking around for costs, and I suspect the number in the lower corner is the cost of each of the cards. As far as their utility goes, I'm a little fuzzy on the terminology. But booting does sound like tapping from Magic the Gathering, showing that you have used the card without expending it. As far as having cards killed off, how the actual play goes, I'm afraid I can't glean that from what I've read. But from what I've seen here, it looks like it's internally consistent. And since I know that there are people out who still do play this game, it does still have a following I've been able to find online. Yeah, I'll have to give it quite good marks for as far as how it works. I also give it bonus markings for the use of this game in an actual role-playing game that spawned it. That's a very nice touch. So, bonus marks for that. As far as the writing and everything, again, it's a collectible card game. I didn't see any egregious errors, any misspellings, or anything like that. Perfectly serviceable. Passing marks for that as well. And then, finally, value. Well, again, I bought this for $1, so I got my value out of it. As far as would this be useful to a person who plays the game? Going under the assumption that the aces are a little bit more powerful, and they certainly seem to be, I would have to say, in this, I found a couple of aces. There's 3 aces in this pack. I found a range of cards that's obviously supportive characters and locations, creatures, events. This one was rather heavy in the club cards, which look like they're things that you use to boost or save your characters. I don't know if that is a theme that you find more of those cards in these packs. If that is the case, that could be very useful, giving you a different range of strategies by buying these cards. On the other hand, it would be really frustrating if you were trying to collect all of the different dudes or all of the different deeds, only having a smattering. I suspect it's purely random, so as far as value goes for somebody who plays this game, I believe there are definitely cards in here that would be useful for a variety of Deadlands decks. Without knowing exactly how the cards work, again, I can glean the use of several of them, and certainly, as long as they're not wasting resources that better cards would give you, I would say that this booster looks like it would give utility to a Deadlands deck in proportion to, I suspect these things probably cost about $3 or $4 back in the day. So if I was really getting into my Deadlands, I would probably be fairly happy with many of these cards, unless of course they're duplicates or I grossly overestimate how useful some of these cards are. But it was certainly interesting looking through them and sharing them with you. Now, of course, if I've just completely wasted the value of an unopened deck and I've committed some sort of blasphemy for opening up a first and second edition, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And again, if you're enjoying these unwrapping videos where we explore these deceased games, so don't worry, I've got about another 11 or 12 that are ready to be made whenever you let me know that you are enjoying these, because I'm doing this for you. And I'll admit, I am somewhat curious about these games that I missed in the ash heaps of time. Certainly, there's gold to be found among the discarded wrappers. Some of these cards I can think of good uses for in my games that I run outside of these card games, and some of them I've just been enjoying uncovering with you. So, I am the OmnusCritic. Once more, thanking you for joining me in my parlor. And to your health, may you enjoy safe travels.